add a sliced tomato to this plate. We just want to keep this really simple so that we can enjoy all of these delicious and fresh flavors. So sliced tomato, and of course the basil is really going to complement the sliced tomato. Let's do a little bit of salt and pepper, bring out the flavor of the tomato. Okay, some extra virgin olive oil on there. And that's it. So we have a great filet mignon, medium rare, on a gorgonzola baguette, sliced tomatoes, fresh basil, a really nice entree. I want to make one other quick dish for you that reminds me a little bit of Napa. I think we have time for one more dish, so I'm going to make a pasta dish. And what I found in Napa was everything was so fresh and delicious that, almost anything made a great dish. So what I'm going to do is take some fresh garlic and mince it lightly. So let's saute this garlic. So once you smell your garlic, you know that it's starting to cook. You don't want to cook it too far. You don't want it to get brown or black. Once it becomes black, it will turn all of the oil in the pan really bitter. Now, once we have that done, what we'll do is we'll add some of these beautiful extra jumbo shrimp. Extra jumbo shrimp are about 16 to 20 per pound, so they're a nice size. They'll cook fairly quickly, just a couple of minutes. These were peeled and deveined already. I like to take the tails off. When you take the tails off, you don't have to do it while you're trying to enjoy the dish. So get these in the pan, saute them in that nice garlic olive oil. And then we're going to add some spinach and some tomatoes. So nice, fresh, healthy dish. That's one of the other things I love about California cuisine, is that it is really fresh and healthy, and you don't feel guilty about what you're eating. But anytime you're using fresh ingredients that are at their peak of flavor, you're really eating healthier. Now, I want to step over to my pasta. I had my pasta water boiling. I've already added the pasta. The pasta that I'm cooking is called paccheri. It's a Neapolitan pasta. It's really like a giant ziti or a giant rigatoni without the ridges in it. And in Naples, they classically serve this with a seafood sauce or a simple tomato and basil. So since we're cooking for the American kitchen, I thought I would combine the two. The seafood being the shrimp, because California certainly has great seafood, and the tomato and spinach and basil, since we have such fresh, great produce out in California as well. Okay, that needs just another minute. Now what I'm going to do while I'm waiting for my shrimp to cook is I'm going to just break up these tomatoes in the liquid with my hands, hand-crushed tomatoes. And you want to do that in the liquid. So make sure that when you're crushing these tomatoes, it's down inside the bowl so that you don't end up wearing all of that liquid. This is also a great thing for kids to do. I love to have kids help me make pasta dishes where they crush the tomatoes. I think kids really enjoy cooking, especially when it's something fun like this that they can really get their hands into. But also the beauty about having kids cook is when kids cook with you, it also makes them much better eaters. They're less inclined to want to go to fast food restaurants if they know the value of cooking, the fun it can be, and also how delicious everything tastes when you make it yourself. So let's toss these shrimp around. We don't want to overcook them, so I'm going to get them to the almost done stage before I add the spinach and the tomato. Okay, and this sauce, this olive oil is looking really creamy right now because I used a high quality olive oil. So it helps create a delicious sauce. Now I'm using sea salt. I always use sea salt, but sea salt would definitely be the salt that you would use if you were cooking seafood. If you always use sea salt, there's no need to change. I keep sea salt in my salt shakers at home. Fine sea salt works beautifully in a salt shaker. You have 3 salt choices in your kitchen. Table salt, which has a lot of additives and is the most processed salt. Then there is kosher salt, which is they're large crystals and they dissolve really quickly. But my favorite and my salt of choice is sea salt because it's the least processed and it retains the maximum flavor and the most nutrients. So if I'm going to have some salt in my food, which I do enjoy, I'm going to use the salt that gives me the biggest bang for the buck, which would be sea salt. Okay, let's add the spinach and saute this. Okay, give that a little toss around. The spinach will cook down rather quickly. I'm going to add some basil just as soon as this cooks down. Some freshly ground pepper. Now I'm using larger shrimp so I can use a larger pasta. Let me get my basil within reach so I don't have to reach over that steaming hot pan. And I just tear my basil. You don't want to prep your basil too far ahead because basil oxidizes very quickly. So it would turn black while it's sitting on the kitchen counter waiting to go into the pan. So just take about a 1/4 cup of basil, a small handful, tear it up, throw it in there, give it a toss. We're going to add the tomatoes and we'll just let this finish to cook and let these flavors blend while we check on the pasta. All right, let me taste my sauce before I let it simmer any longer, just to make sure I have the salt and pepper adjusted properly. Oh, that's great. I think it's really because of those imported Italian tomatoes. Full of flavor, really delicious. So we're just going to turn this way down to low, let this simmer while I finish to cook the pasta. Okay, and this looks just about done, so I'm going to drain my pasta. My pasta's drained. I'm just going to add the pasta right to the pan with the shrimp and the sauce. And then what I'll do is I'll give it a nice toss, get the pasta well coated, and I'm just going to let it sit in here for a minute so that the pasta has a chance to absorb the flavor of the shrimp and the basil and the tomatoes, and also just the pasta will absorb that sauce. And it's a great way to cook pasta. This is also a great way to use up leftover pasta that is unsauced. When you're cooking pasta, cook twice as much, drain it, serve half, and store half. Let the other half, the second half, cool off. Put it into a Ziploc bag or a bowl and put it in the refrigerator. Don't put anything on it. No olive oil, nothing. Just put it in the refrigerator. Make a good pan sauce like this, even if all you did was saute some tomatoes and some basil and garlic, and put the pasta right into the sauce. Don't worry about it sticking together. Once it hits the sauce, it will come apart, and you reheat the pasta this way. A great, great way to use leftover pasta and have less cooking a second night during the week. Let's plate this so we can get a good look. And these pockeries still have a bit of roundness to them because we didn't overcook the dish. Okay, lots of shrimp. We had plenty of shrimp so that we can be really generous with ourselves with the shrimp, a little basil. Now we're running out of basil. We've been cooking a lot. Okay, a little basil to garnish. Your garnishes should be something that's in the dish, and there's definitely basil in this dish. Okay. There you have it. So we have pockery with jumbo shrimp, imported Italian tomatoes, spinach, basil, garlic, extra virgin olive oil. Buon appetito. I'm Barbara Selig Brown. Thanks for joining me today on Stress Free Cooking. I hope you'll join me again or visit me on Facebook at Stress Free Cooking with host Barbara Selig Brown. Buon appetito.
Stress-Free Cooking is brought to you by... From the sunny Mediterranean comes one of the world's finest olive oils for all your cooking needs. Pompeian extra virgin olive oil, classic Mediterranean, and extra light tasting. Pompeian makes everything better. From our table to yours, O-Pee-Chee Wines, fine wines and spirits from around the world since 1913. Cutco, the world's finest cutlery. Melissa's, the freshest ideas in produce. And Sub-Zero Wolf Appliances. Enjoy Barbara Selig Brown's cookbook as she shows you how to make stress-free dishes in the comfort of your own home. Offer made by Stress-Free Cooking for $19.95.